you so much, Renzo, and welcome to everybody to this meeting. I'm Luann Stovall. I'm stepping in for Lena, who is in she's in from Chile. I'm in Austin, Texas. So if I don't have the exact slides we were going to start the intro with, but we've got the welcome everyone. So I'm going to follow Renzo and give you just a little bit of an overview today. Then we're going to start with our mini talks by our 6 esteemed presenters. So the Intersociety, well, let me say who I am. I'm a lecturer at University of Texas, so in Austin, and I'll be introducing our program. The Intersociety Color Council is creating Fluorescent Fridays as a platform for university students from many different perspectives to network with color professionals and fellow students and explore cutting-edge information about color's multi-dimensional nature and its applications in the world. If you're interested in becoming a part of this, check out our website. There it is up there. And here's a list of benefits of becoming a member. Goody, our slides are working. Our main goal is, as Renzo mentioned, to build a global student chapter that positions color as a multidimensional STEAM model. And that's really important to this talk because the STEAM means science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And setting up communications between all these different disciplines is really our goal. We're trying to make sure we provide up-to-date color research by scientists and artists, designers, industry professionals, and students working at the university level. So today we are going to have 6 guests giving 6 mini talk presentations in our Fluorescent Friday session. We will discover different perspectives from students all around the world. So, and you know, you're going to have your mind stretched as you hear different perspectives from them. And so we encourage you, first of all, while we're getting started, to let us know where you are and put it in the chat box so we know where you are. Get your fingers limbered up so you can ask questions and think about what while we have everyone here today to the Q&A at the last 10 minutes. So please make sure, and you might want to ask questions about the programs they're in or anything you have about what they're presenting to you in the talks. So I'm Luann Stovall. I am a lecturer at the University of Texas at Austin. I am an artist and I'm a designer, and it's also a board member of the Intersociety Color Council. So I'm going to start in and introduce our first guest. And thank you all again for coming here. And Breana, if you want to share your screen, I'm going to introduce you first. And let me know if you have issues with the screen share, but hopefully you will. So our first guest is Breana McGrath. Breana is currently a graduate student in the Master of Architecture program at the University of Florida. She began this study on color in healthcare environments under the direction of Dr. Margaret Portillo, while earning a Bachelor of Design in Interior Design from the University of Florida. Today, she will be talking to us about integrating color and comfort within orthopedic and rehabilitation spaces. So we welcome you to this program, and please welcome Breana.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Breana McGrath, and I will be presenting my research on integrating color and comfort within orthopedic and rehabilitation spaces. Interior healthcare environments impact patient well-being, yet the design is often overlooked. Supportive design creates less stressful environments which provide healing and recovery for patients. Design of healthcare facilities needs to shift from a focus strictly on functionality to an empathetic approach, addressing the psychological needs of the patients, visitors, and nurses using the space. Design influences emotion, and in turn, emotion through empathy can influence design, especially in spaces where emotion is critical to well-being. Designers with an empathy-driven approach can use emotion as a tool. While elements of design, such as color, can influence emotion in a space, emotion can in turn influence the design. Healthcare environments can be stressful, so color can be used as a design tool to create an environment that fosters recovery and well-being of patients. Residential and healthcare spaces are on far ends of the design spectrum in terms of the perceived comfort level and feeling. Healthcare spaces are most important spaces that should promote a home-like feeling. A residential space is thought of as a calm, safe, and comfortable space, while a healthcare space is typically the opposite. While studies have been done on the effects of color in interior spaces, the focus often remains on user performance or preference of the color in the space, rather than the emotion felt by the user. This research dives into the emotions associated with color and how color can be used in healthcare design to create a comfortable home-like space. This study consists of 3 phases. In phase 1,
Breana?
exterior designers with experience in healthcare design will be used to determine. Yes.
We're hearing a few comments about not hearing you. Would you be able to just speak that parts where you are with that or not?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be because there's something with the mic and I wanted to make sure people could hear you. So just pick up from where you are.
Can you hear anything or?
Yes, but now we hear you very well.
Okay, gotcha. I recorded it ahead of time, so I
This is,
think
thank you.
that's what it is.
Yeah, this is good. Just take it from here. You're doing.
Gotcha. 1 second here. I'm gonna switch over to a PowerPoint because that's a recording. So.
Okay, thank you. Is that okay for everybody? Okay, great. We wanted to make sure we heard your voice.
Okay, yes.
Sorry about the interruption, everybody, but I hope that does help the quality of learning.
All right, here we go.
Goody, thank you. That's perfect.
Awesome. Okay, and I believe it was on this slide.
Yeah.
Cool. So in phase 1, a group of interior designers with experience in healthcare design will be used to determine which color palettes are most appropriate to use for data collection. In phase 2, data collected from up to 30 student female athlete participants using a survey, renderings of spaces, and corresponding color palettes will be used. Data will also be collected from up to 10 orthopedic care staff members and physical therapists to draw conclusions on professionals in orthopedic spaces. In phase 3, a group of up to 30 design students will complete a survey similar to the one in phase 1 to anticipate trends in interior designers newly entering the design field. The color palettes selected during phase 1 as the most appropriate for healthcare, residential, and orthopedic spaces will also be used to develop renderings of 4 unique spaces, 2 of a healthcare space and 2 of a residential space. This is further broken down by including a public and private space in each set of renderings. The healthcare renderings will include a patient room and a waiting room, while the residential renderings will include a private bedroom and a living room. This also allows the preferences to be compared between residential and healthcare spaces and public and private spaces. These renderings are vital to phase 2 in order to allow the student athletes and orthopedic team to evaluate the spaces based on interior context and color preference. So, rather than creating our own color palettes, we turn to the Sherwin-Williams Color Mix Forecast, which is usually released every year and decided on by a design council of color experts in a range of specialties. Since this study was started pre-pandemic, the Sherwin-Williams Color Mix Forecast for 2019 was intended to be used as the sole data collection instrument. But since the study was put on hold during the pandemic, a group of healthcare design specialists evaluated the 2019 and 2021 color mix forecast to choose which was the most appropriate to use. Without knowing which group of color palettes corresponded to what year, the healthcare design specialists unanimously chose the 2019 palettes, which are shown here. The key questions driving the study are, which color palettes would the 3 user groups associate with the following spaces? This also allows us to evaluate responses from 3 perspectives: design, healthcare provider, and patient. And do selected color palettes associate with residential comfort, which allows us to evaluate whether color usage and trends in residential spaces can be used to increase comfort in healthcare and orthopedic spaces. This is a preliminary line of research, but it's still important, as it could start a line of research in orthopedic spaces. One preliminary finding was the healthcare design specialist, during the instrument development phase, unanimously choosing the Sherwin-Williams 2019 palettes over the 2021 palettes as most appropriate for healthcare, residential, and orthopedic spaces. In healthcare design, we expect color palettes with a long lifespan because these spaces are not renovated frequently. We expect to see a trend towards natural colors, though not necessarily muted or earthy tones. And we also expect some similarities and differences between the 3 sample groups, including persons who may fall into more than one category. Thank you for your time, and a special thank you to my advisor, Dr. Portillo, and the healthcare design specialist who participated in the study.
Thank you so much for that for your presentation, Breana. And I know that we mentioned briefly before we started today that the idea of how color and light exists in built environments, especially how it impacts our healthcare. You couldn't have picked a subject that was more relevant to where we are, you know, in the world today. So, you know, I'm sure there'll be some questions about what that program is. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Oh no, I'm just glad it works so we could hear your voice. So thanks a lot. Our next speaker is Lili Zhang. Welcome, Lili. Lili is a PhD candidate in her 5th year at the Munsell Color Science Laboratory at Rochester Institute of Technology. Her research focuses on color perception in the mixed reality technology, collaborating from university labs to leading industry partners like, and Lili, I might say this wrong, I'll give you the initials, NVIDIA, and Facebook Reality Lab. Today, she will be talking about appearance dimension in mixed reality. Lili, welcome to Fluorescent Fridays. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Luan, and thank you for having me here today. Today, I want to give an overview of this new color appearance dimension in mixed reality. If you have ever seen these devices on commercials, on website, you would know the enthusiastics of big players on mixed reality. Mixed reality is a mass and growing market. Slowly, it's moving from research labs and enterprise consumers to personal consumers. So what is a mixed reality? It is called mixed because it means it's between the reality, which is the world surround us, like in the image on the left, and the virtuality, which is completely computer generated graphics. For example, in the middle, this is a photo that depicts what is this mixture. This is a photo taken at my desk through hand-mounted mixed reality glasses. In this photo, this chair here and the colorful dice at the bottom, they are rendered images, and everything rest is the real world. So this is what mixed reality means. On a side note here is that the mixed reality we're talking about today is optical see-through mix, meaning you are seeing the real world through some semi-transparent lenses, but not the video-based mixed reality where you're capturing the real world through the camera, then rendered on the screen. So how does this optical see-through mixed reality works? Usually you would have some semi-transparent optical surface in front of your eyes. It could be flat, curved, prism, diffuse grating. And the light from the real world will pass through this lens and reach your eye, so you would see the real world. And there's another component of this optical see-through system that is a small display, which is about maybe your fingernail size. And it acts like a projector that projects this rendered image to the optical surface, then reflected or diffracted to your eye. As a result, you would see this rendering overlay on the real world background. So unlike display monitors we use every day, mixed reality relies on this transparent display, which result in some image quality issues that doesn't present in conventional display monitors. If you take a closer look at this photo showed a second ago, you would notice some problems. For example, on the colorful dice here, the left image is the original input image, but the right image is what's rendered through this transparent display. You will notice some resolution and contrast problem on that. If you pay attention to the chair back here, you will notice this textile is losing its texture and it's giving a transparent sensation to it. And there is some the chair leg, the relative depth of the chair leg and the rubber duck is giving some weird occlusion and confusing depth cues. So among all those problems, one research we focused on is the perceived transparency. This is a new appearance dimension that doesn't necessarily present in conventional display monitors. So we want to quantify this dimension through some psychophysical experiment. First, we focused on monochromatic color transparency. This is an experiment we ran that in the middle, the small patch is rendered from the AR devices, and the sine wave background here, it acts like the background, real world background behind it. We asked observers to rate the small square transparency using a slider on the bottom from completely transparent to completely opaque. We tested various combinations of AR luminance, background contrast, and the results showed that we can predict the AR patch transparency based on those informations provided from the AR and the background. With that knowledge, we can now render this linearly increased transparency scale to visualize this new appearance dimension. Compared to conventionally used brightness scale or luminance scale, AR transparency cannot be replaced by this existing dimension as you see here. And this research proved the necessity of this new dimension in the optical see-through augmented mixed reality, and this promoting us extending this research work to chromatic colors. And at the end, thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward for the discussion later.
Thank you, Lili, so much. And for everybody here today, it's been it's a challenge to invite all of these very strong researchers here from university to put their research into language that we can learn from it. And Lili, that was really helpful to understand in fact what it is that you do. And I have a feeling that there's no doubt that what you're doing is a kind of technology we'll be using so much in the years to come. So we really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And yeah, get your questions ready, everybody. Our next guest is Kaitlin Reynolds. Kate is pursuing her Master's of Interior Design at the University of Texas at Austin. Before returning to school, she worked as a digital product designer who focused on enterprise design with an emphasis on accessibility and was a hobbyist travel writer. Kate, is your screen, can you get your screen up there? Good, okay, great. Wanted to make sure we saw that image while we were doing this. So she was a hobbyist travel writer where some of her work is published in Lonely Planet. Kate holds a BA in International Affairs from Texas A&M University, but today she will share her experience exploring the process of representing sound and through textiles and color tactile representations in interior spaces. Kate, the screen is yours.
Okay. Are you seeing the full screen or do you see like a black box around it?
We see full screen.
Great. Okay. Okay. Hi, my name is Kate Reynolds. I'm a master's student of interior design at the University of Texas. And today I'm going to talk about my project Process. Process was inspired by the work of Annie Albers, who was a German textile artist whose career spanned nearly 80 years. She got her start at the Bauhaus, which was a school that blended fine arts and design, and it was opened between 1919 and 1933. Students there would specialize in topics, and for Annie, due to a degenerative disease and the time, she was unhappily forced into weaving. But through her workshop, Annie explored and developed a fascination with learning how to use the loom and vary her weaving method in ways that no one had considered before. And Annie might sound familiar because she was married to Joseph Albers, who was an artist that some of you may know. His work mainly focused on perceptual properties of color and spatial relationships. They were, as Joseph put it, fiercely independent and interdependent to rare effect, or as Annie put it, equal and unequal. For example, on the left is Joseph's homage to the square titled Taproot, and on the right is Annie's pictorial weaving titled Underway. Annie's weaving actually predates Joseph's color study. So although Joseph is rightly credited with his incredible color sense, I think Annie's application of color wasn't really to understand the science, but to bring about an emotional response from her work. So really the idea of process came from Annie's love of exploring and abstracting ways to communicate through her art. And in her later years, she continued this exploration by more industrial tools like the typewriter, which she eventually used to draft screen prints. And one of the more exciting series to come out of this was titled Orchestra. And this collection is based on something that she heard in her childhood, the Berlin Symphony Orchestra tuning up. And what Annie loved about this wasn't the actual symphony, but the idea that there is methodology, or what she called process, behind something that people would otherwise regard as background noise. And to take it a step further, I used a tool called a spectrogram to visually explore, much like Annie did with her orchestra series, and created a sound gallery within the process pavilion. And a spectrogram is a tool to visualize sound or a color-coded graph that shows loudness, duration, and pitch. So this is a spectrogram of the Berlin Symphony Orchestra tuning up. And if you look at the bottom of that graph, there are bright yellow wave shapes, which correspond to the loudest instrument, that's the French horn. So I use this tool to help visualize and categorize auditory occurrences throughout my day. And a little bit of this was inspired by the pandemic and just having a more intimate relationship with my own home. So I began recording small things, which inspired me to create these spectrograms and then categorize them into morning, afternoon, and evening groups. And how I applied this was, as I listened to the morning sounds, I associated them with not just times of day, but the feelings from those moments. So I put together a few mood boards to describe the process of exploring how I went from sound to moments to color. So I'd listen to my sounds and then try to analyze the whys of my emotions. So here you're looking at just diffuse lighting. There are whites and pinks and blues and some grays. And for me, when those colors and environment were layered, it helped connect and capture the sound to the color and eventually the interior design. And I was then conscious that these colors and textiles had a synesthetic quality to them because it was a way to connect emotions to color as opposed to just assigning color to noise. And so this is my initial morning color study, and I wanted the color in the room to feel quiet, hazy, and kind of calm. And I explored this exercise for the morning, afternoon, and evening. And this was my afternoon mood board, which led to my color study that translated those high energy sounds to stronger, warmer lighting and higher saturations of color. And finally, this is my evening mood board, which led to the color study that represented my introvertedness, showing the colors with less saturation and more muted tones. And I brought the concept of layering sound, light, and color to the pavilion by taking out the strict categorization and staging smaller vignettes that presented these times collectively. So for example, instead of using white noise, just like static background, it brings a translucent and ephemeral quality to enhance the sound-inspired colors and textiles. And from left to right, you're looking at the evening color, the morning color, and the afternoon color scheme together on pieces of furniture that were created for the pavilion. And as another example, as an individual first walks into that pavilion, they see this red-orange welcome desk, and again, that morning blue backdrop. So the desk color brings with it that warmth, energy, and idea of being social, and the grays and blues only enhance the oranges effect. So the idea is that we don't experience these colors and emotions in silos, but they're often intertwined and can elicit unique responses from us. And I mentioned the sound gallery at the beginning, and the intention behind this sound insulated glass room is to create a stark auditory difference from outside to inside. So this is forcing someone to take note of their surroundings. And to control that auditory experience even further, hidden in the ceiling and the floor behind those grates are directional speakers that play the spectrogram sounds from my routine as someone walks through the space. So while they're experiencing these sounds, an individual can read about what they're hearing and visually and tactilely connect those specific sounds, feelings, and colors to the row of chairs that are along the wall. And with that, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Kate. And yeah, I'm really interested in what you're doing anyway, because I think the translation of senses and sensory information, visual information into color and how that relates to the environment is so potential. There's so much you can do with that. So we're looking forward to seeing what you do and get your questions ready for everybody. So thank you so much to you. Our next speaker is Shahriar Salim. Salim is a PhD candidate in the program of Fiber and Polymer Science at North Carolina State University. He conducts research in cotton cassinization, I think I'm going to say that wrong, Salim, cassinization, dyeing, and finishing. He was a contract research chemist in polyurethane formulations at BASF. Salim holds a MS in chemical engineering from the University of South Carolina. Today, he'll be sharing his research on graft polymerization of, and you're going to have to translate this for me, Salim, DADMAC, into cotton for achieving ultra deep black color. There's a lot to learn here, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Let's welcome Salim, and the screen is yours.
Hello everyone, I am Shahriar Salim. The title of my talk is Graft Polymerization of DADMAC into Cotton for Achieving Ultra Deep Black Color. Introduction: when cotton is submerged into water, negative charges are generated in the cotton surface which repel anionic reactive dyes. High amounts of salts are used to overcome the zeta potential and increase dye exhaustion. Moreover, alkali is required for fixation of reactive dyes into cotton, which also hydrolyzes a significant portion of the dyes. The effluent from a dye house is laden with unexhausted salts, unfixed dyes, and hydrolyzed dyes, which is a major source of water pollution. Catonization of cotton is an effective way of reducing water pollution. Most popular way of cotton catonization is grafting chaptec into cotton. For one more project.
Salim,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I think we need to see your whole screen.
Oh, it's not actually showing the whole screen?
That's right. We're seeing the, that's what.
It's showing the presenter's view?
Your notes are showing, Salim. You need
Okay.
to just hide your notes and just show the actual screen for your slides.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Renzo. I appreciate that
Yes.
translation.
Okay. So, okay. So, so chaptec into cotton. For one more project, we are using DADMAC for cotton catonization because when we are using DADMAC, we are actually removing the yes. When we are using DADMAC, we are actually avoiding the possibility of formation of epoxy, which causes which is a carcinogen, which poses serious occupational hazard during cotton catonization with chaptec. As shown in the figure, the catonized cotton attracts anionic reactive dyes, which avoids the formation, which avoids actually the requirement of salt and alkali during dyeing. Figure 1 shows the standard method of dyeing cotton, and figure 2 shows the dyeing method of catonized cotton with alkali. Catonized cotton can be dyed without alkali also. The significant difference between these two dyeing methods is the amount of time required for dyeing catonized cotton is only 92 minutes, while the method for dyeing cotton, which is untreated in the standard method, is 142 minutes. The untreated cotton and chapter treated cotton were dyed to 4.4% and 5.5% on weight of dye fab with Rimazole deep black GWF dye, while the graft polymerized cotton with Dadmac was dyed to only 4% dye on weight of fabric with and without alkali. When after completion of the after completion of dyeing cotton, untreated cotton and catonized cotton, the dye baths were checked to measure the dye exhaustion. It was observed that the cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac dyed with only 4% dye has the highest dye exhaustion compared to untreated cotton and Chaptec treated cotton. When no alkali was used, the dye exhaustion was about 95%. When alkali was used, dye exhaustion was more than 99% for cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac. It was also higher than Chaptec treated cotton, which was dyed with 4% on weight of dye and 5.5% when weight of dye of the fabric. When the color yield of all dyed samples were measured, it was observed that cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac with 4%, which was dyed with 4% on weight of dye of the fabric, has a higher color yield than untreated cotton and Chaptec treated cotton with zero alkali. Dyed with zero alkali, it was also observed that cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac, which was dyed using alkali, has the highest color yield, which was more than all of the rest of the color fastness to crocking. Color fastness to crocking is a measure of color transfer when from the black fabric to a dry or wet surface. In the color fastness to crocking was measured according to AITCC test method 8/2016. It was observed that the cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac has comparable color fastness to dry and wet crocking compared to untreated cotton and Chaptec treated cotton dyed with or without alkali. Color fastness to laundering. Color fastness to laundering is a measure of color transfer from the black fabric to a multi-fiber strip. After laundering, the result is a fabric with lower color yield. The color fastness to laundering was measured using according to the AITCC test method 61/2013 test condition 2A. It was observed that the color fastness to laundering of cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac was comparable to color fastness to laundering of untreated cotton and Chaptec treated cotton dyed with or without alkali. After laundering test, color yield of all the samples were measured again. It was observed that color yield of cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac were still higher than untreated cotton and Chaptec treated cotton with zero alkali. Similarly, the cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac, which was dyed with alkali, had higher color yield than all other of them. Color fastness to light. Color fastness to light is a measure of fading of the black fabric compared to the original fabric when it was exposed to the weather condition of a certain place. In our case, it was exposed to Miami conditions. So the fabric was exposed to the light, heat, moisture, and radiation conditions, similar to the Miami. So it was observed that the cotton graft polymerized with Dadmac, the dyed fabrics, those have similar color fastness to light when compared to untreated cotton and Chaptec treated cotton when exposed to Miami conditions for 20 and 40 hours. Conclusion. In the conclusion, we can say that catonization of cotton removed the requirement of salt and alkali in the dye bath therefore reduce the requirement of chemicals. It was also reduced the dyeing time, which increased the significant reduction in required in the dyeing time. Therefore, it actually reduced the dyeing time, so it actually increased the production. Copolymerization of Denmark into cotton ensured higher dye exhaustion and higher color yield while maintaining the similar color fastness results compared to Chaptec treated cotton and untreated cotton, which was dyed in the traditional method. Thank you all. I am looking forward to seeing all of your questions, answering in the presentation, after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Salim. Yeah, I think I'm going to need a long tutor session. So I tell you one thing that for me, learning from what you present, anybody that takes for granted the fabrics that we have, that we buy, we're realizing just a little bit about how much goes on behind the scenes to bring us the fabrics that we have. So, I really appreciate your letting us know. So thank you so much. And our next speaker then is Maryam Mohammad-Gholipour. Maryam is a colorist architect. She has painted under the supervision of a Sufi master since childhood. The subject of color and perspective in art led her to continue studying at architecture at SBU University in Tehran. In her master's thesis, she discovered a Persian architecture color system. And in her PhD, she created a color tool for architecture designers. Kanzing, that's translated as Sun Castle, is her color business brand, especially color palettes, and she produces color products under this name. It should be noted that the Persian color palette is being inscribed in the Iran Ministry of Cultural Heritage, Tourism, and Handicrafts in Tehran, and is hoped that will be included in the World Heritage. Maryam, welcome to Fluorescent Friday. The screen is yours. Maryam, is your sound off? I'm not hearing you yet.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Maryam from Iran. I'm truly honored to have a chance to share part of my PhD thesis here in this group. First of all, I invite you to watch a very short video. Okay, yes. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay, let me. Okay, you can see it, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. My title is Nakhsha Jahan Square Color Mapping to Documenting Persian Color Palette. Nakhsha Jahan Square is a pre-love Safavid architecture. This gigantic masterpiece is 512 widths and 159 lengths, and is famous as an urban spaces. The flourishing growth of Persian architecture appeared in 16th century, and after that, there was a dramatic decline from the mosaic to concrete. But before that, let's see before that, that the archaeologists believe that the Persian decoration appeared and was designed with glazed tile and appeared in the Ziggurat Chogha-Zanbil in Elamite era. It continued with stone, wood, glazed brick and tile in Achaemenid Empire, and Blind Arcade and stucco in Sassanid Empire. And the glory of colorful Persian architecture is in Nakhsh Jahan Square in Safavid dynasty. And this is square surrounded by 4 main monuments. And this shot was taken from the balcony of the bazaar. And these are the rest of the monuments: Shah Mosque, Gholipour Palace, and Sheikh Lutfullah Mosque. We can compare the location of these 4 monuments with the picture. And I have scanned different parts of these 4 buildings for my PhD thesis. Before I went to Isfahan, I decided to have a pilot study, and I have chosen one garden palace in Tehran, and I have scanned the eastern wall of this palace, and I have designed for model of scanning: randomly scan, chromatic scan, lattice scan, and scan background. And this is a total theme of this garden palace. And let's see these 4 monuments. The eastern monument of Nakhsh Jahan Square is Sheikh Lutfullah Mosque. And I have designed this chart to addressing the different part of scan. And 184 scan points. I mean that I scan 150 points here, and with 13 scan parts. And finally, 18 identified palettes were extracted. The southern monument of this square is Imam Mosque, with 79 scan points, 9 scan parts, and 4 identified palettes. This is, again, one detail of this monument. You can see, for example, 5 RG, and these are the matching number. The western monument of this square is Gholipour Palace with 79 scan points, 9 scan parts, and 4 identified palettes. And the northern monument is Qaysariya Bazaar with 10 scan points, 3 scan parts, and 3 identified palettes. Finally, this complex had 467 scan points, 31 scan parts, and 48 identified palettes. And you can see the final palette here. This is one draft of making palettes of these 4 monuments. You can see here by details. And this is the second try. And these are my exercises. And this is the third, practice which I had put the Persian name on that. Kangdesh is a name of these palette that I have extracted from one Persian poetry. The name is The Book of the King by Ferdowsi, and the meaning is that the castle of song. And besides, I have interviewed with 15 colorists all around the world, and the thematic analysis of their interview shows that the Persian palette have natural and dual characteristic and contextual meaning. And the result shows that there is a color system in Nakhsh Jahan palette, and its digital-based documents bring an accurate color combination documentary that can be offered local color identity to artists in the form of color chips and app. I want to thank NCS and Pantone, and my special thanks is for Inter-Society Color Council.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Maryam. It makes me want to come visit you and find out more about this process. It's so fascinating. I'm very happy to now introduce our final speaker of our event today. And that is, she is Vanessa Mardirossian. She's from Concordia University. Vanessa worked as a textile designer for more than 20 years in all sectors of the fashion industry. Concerned about the environmental impact of textile industry, she's conducting a doctoral research that engages in an iterative dialogue between design, chemistry, and environmental health to reflect on a critical approach to textile materiality and address complex social issues through the prism of graphics and color. She'll be talking about the culture of color and eco-literacy of textile design. Vanessa, the screen is yours. Welcome to Fluorescent Fridays.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to present my work today, Culture of Color and Eco-Literacy of Textile Design. My name is Vanessa Mardirossian. I come from France, as you can hear in my accent. I'm based in Montreal, where I live for 13 years. I've been working in fashion as a textile designer for over 20 years now. And as such, color has always been my main tool for designing prints. Over time, I became really concerned about the polluting aspect of my industry, as more and more scientific studies showed the toxicity of synthetic dyes. I felt the need to reflect on this issue. I'm currently doing a doctoral research in sustainable design at Concordia University, where I interconnect design, chemistry, and environmental health. I'm trying to understand the molecular aspect of color and the interaction between synthetic molecules and the environments. This journey, questioning the interconnection between living things and manufacturing, led me to develop what I call a textile eco-literacy, which I define as an ecological culture in design to engage in more responsible practices. Eco-literacy was invented by the environmental educator David Orr and the physicist Capra in the 90s. It's a concept that takes ecosystems as a model to help harmonize the relationship between human activities and the natural world. From my readings, I'm really inspired by the thinking of the biologist Janine Benyus, who invites us to observe the way nature produces materials at room temperature and without any toxic waste. I'm also influenced by the multidisciplinary collaboration of designer McDonough and chemist Braungart. In their cradle-to-cradle concept, they address the notion of waste as a nutrient. So inspired by this concept, I started to design and to dye textiles with food waste, like onion or avocado, for example. These non-toxic techniques saves water and cultivable land. It's also a renewable and widely available resource that can be composted later. The concept of biomimicry stimulated my speculative exploration of using food waste to provide pigment-producing bacteria with the nutrients they need to develop a rich palette of hues. Bacteria are extracted from water or soil. They are also a renewable resource that can be put asleep or freeze when we don't need them. And thanks to that, I've been working with the same strain for 4 years. Working with living things requires a sense of attention and careful observation to understand their behavior. It is therefore important to monitor humidity, light, nutrients, and oxygen. The process involves preparing some liquid culture with various nutrients from food waste. Here you can see some tests with decoctions of apple, orange, onion, or black beans, for example. Then I inoculate the liquid culture on various fibers to achieve different shades. In doing so, I've noticed that the bacteria provide brighter shades on silk and wool, rather than on cotton or linen. Here is the result after 24 hours. And here after 48 hours, always at room temperature. By observing the behavior of bacteria, I've noticed that they like to be constrained in tight places. So in order to guide their growth, I made some stencils, as you can see on the left. The pattern was inspired by the zigzag movement commonly used in microbiology to inoculate cells, as shown on the right. This technique allows me to print patterns on textiles with pigment from bacteria. It took 48 hours at room temperature to produce the print shown on the picture. The fabric had been previously dyed with avocado pits and skin. This research was recently exhibited at the École Supérieure de Mode de l'UQAM in Montreal. This first step was really experimental and speculative. I was mostly curious to see if I could achieve a wide range of shades using only food waste and bacteria. And the answer is yes. I was really impressed with the result. I didn't expect to be able to get such a wide range of shades, and even more exciting, to be able to match so many Pantone colors, as you can see at the top of the image. For the next step in my research, I plan to work with engineers to improve the resistance of dyes to sunlight and their possible application to digital textile printing. I hope to have more to share with you soon. And in the meantime, I thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Well done, everyone. It's so interesting. I mean, as you all see, this very wide range of topics, and from these cutting edge research that everyone is presenting today. And I'm looking at the questions we're from the audience. And first of all, we're hearing from Dr. Shami, and I'm on behalf of everyone, thank you so much to all of the presenters, such a rich array of topics, and good luck with the research. So we all feel the same way. And thank you so much to you. So let's see if we have a specific question from someone in the audience. I'm looking at our messages here. A lot of success to you all. I had a question since you just finished your presentation. Vanessa, how unusual is your research? How hard, I know yourself, it's like you may be reaching out to someone like Salim in North Carolina as an engineering to work with the materials, but yeah, how difficult has it been for you to find, to be able to work with waste and turn it into something beautiful and work with engineers?
First, you need, when you work with bacteria, when you work with living organisms such as bacteria, fungus, or yeast, you need a proper lab, and we are lucky enough at Concordia to have this living lab, so we can really work. We have a lot of trainings also to be, to handle this living, to handle and also to dispose of these living materials. So the waste is a question of, looking at I'm working with waste for over 20 years in my work, but really mixing the waste with bacteria is something new in this research. So what I found interesting about that is it's something available, and we can also make connections, for example, with industries or restaurants, for the waste from one company to become the resource for another one. And it could be also locally produced and at room temperature.
That's really amazing. And there's a follow-up question for you. I know we're running we still have a little time, so I want to get these questions in. You had mentioned, and this is just a final question from Vanessa, the color fastness, standing up to light. I think you said this is what you're interested in, working with engineers to make sure and develop.
Yes, exactly, because I'm dyeing clothes for myself to test them, for example, avocado and onion are one of the most solid colors. I can really wear them. I'm always dyeing napkins, but my exhibition was within a window display without any protection from sunlight, from UV. So after 3 months, it becomes more sensitive. So really, it's why the collaboration with engineers becomes really interesting to push that further.
And again, this makes our point about why it's important for all these disciplines to talk to each other. Yes, and there's a question for Kate. Kate, this is a question from Renata. She said, I'm searching German colorists and have read the works from Vasily Kandinsky. And I think he talks a lot about this connection of color and music and sound. Is there something common in their thoughts with Annie Albers?
I'm not sure, but I do know that Joseph Albers and Kandinsky were connected through the Bauhaus. So I have to imagine that they all talked about that work. But for Annie, with her screen print series and with sound, most of them were in black and white, and most of them were actually talking about more the energy and the very specific things, like seeing the bows of the violins moving or the maestro moving. But so it's not particularly about the color. It was just trying to capture the energy from it.
Right. And there was a lot of, I know that we talked a little bit when I heard about your work. There's a rich area of now just sort of experimenting with ideas of how color relates to sound, relates to the different senses. And I think you said you're interested in exploring that. Would you just mention a little bit about that? You're interested in the senses and exhibition design?
Oh yeah, so this was at the beginning of my research, and what I presented today was more of the lead up into this, creating an exhibition that was really trying to connect sound to the color, but a immersive experience into that. So you couldn't really not tear it apart. You couldn't really think about it without the other. So it more informed each other.
Right, and I think in all of the presentations you're hearing today, there's a lot of, from what you're saying here with your design concept and how that could work for exhibitions, for Breana in healthcare, for Lili in virtual reality, to what we're finding out about, how architecture the colors can be recovered and presented and honored. So there's just so many ways to see how color works in the environment. And I know that I see that it's 3:01, and I know there's questions for Maryam about azurite blue. I wish we could get to that right now, and maybe we could, Maryam, if we could ask you just quickly about azurite blue. Is that something you can tell us about? Oh, okay, I don't hear her voice right now. So what I want to say is, again, for everybody, this is really, I think exciting just to hear. You're getting a peek into these careers, and you're also getting, you're getting, I think, learning about their, where they're working, where the universities are coming from, and that's, and what they have to offer for someone who's interested in studying, this sort of expanding field of color. So what I wanted to say, I was being reminded from my colleagues about Fluorescent Friday. Going forward, what we want to do, please everybody keep this in mind. We want to hear from you if you're from a university, you're studying color, from color science, design, the arts, healthcare, all of these areas. We're going to want to hear from you. We're just building this group and this platform. So what we are working on over at the ISCC is we'll have over the summer, a template up under events and programs for ISCC, Inter-Society Color Council. If somebody can put a link in the chat, maybe for ISCC, you can see it. But we're going to be, that's where you'll be able to go. And the idea is to be able to have this as an open proposal, so you can propose your research, and as we put forward these Fluorescent Friday events, and you'll be able to propose that you do a mini talk. So we really want to be able to share that with you, and then that way we can put you in touch with any of our presenters if you have a question that we can't cover today. So again, thank you to everyone. A round of applause to all of you, and thank you to the ISCC for hosting us. And have a great summer, and we hope to see you. We're going to have the next one, I believe. Lena, I see you on the call. I believe it's in September. Will be our first one. And okay, cool. And we will be looking for proposals, hearing from different universities. If you have a colleague who is teaching students in color and some kind of color research, or if you're a student and you know of another student who's doing the color research, we'd love to hear from you. So that's where you're going to get to keep your eye on that area of the ISCC website that says Fluorescent Friday. So I hope you all have it. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a Fluorescent Friday.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luann. Thank you, speakers. Amazing work.
Thank you. Yes, good to see you, Alessandra.
Thank you.